Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, as been the tradition lately, I've got two folks joining me today. Charlie Cook in his normal Monday slot, and joining me as well, John Petrolino, writer for AmmoLand and Bearing Arms and about a half a dozen other sites, as well as the author of his own book. Is joining me, and we're going to be talking about a lot of news stories. But gentlemen, first, thank you for joining me.
Oh, always a pleasure.
Let's see here. I'm going to get over to show notes because Thursday we had the Supreme Court decision, and May issue is now no longer allowed in the United States. May issue is gone, and the media is continuing to freak out. And more importantly, there are a lot of states where the politicians continue to freak out. I was looking earlier today, and we've got 5 or 6 stories here where in places like, I'm leading off with Hawaii. Off our first story from Bearing Arms, in Hawaii, Democratic State Senator Chris Lee said lawmakers will try to determine how else they can ensure public safety. Read into that, how else we can infringe on your rights. And we'll look at screening, training requirements, and ways to keep guns out of certain public places. In other words, outside your front door. Provisions the justices said would be permitted. The bottom line is Hawaii is about to become a more dangerous place, said Senator Karl Rose, a Democrat. Hawaii will go from a place where the right to carry in public is the exception to a place where not having the right to carry on the street is an exception. I see no restriction on the type of firearm. He says that like it's a bad thing, guys.
It's funny how the right is an exception rather than the right is not an exception. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. They're like, hey, listen, we give people the right. They just can't, it's only certain people, and they have to go through X amount of training and X amount of hassle. And, since it's Hawaii, we probably will make it very difficult and make it a long time and make it expensive. But people still have their rights.
And, that's one of the things that I saw online today was great, one of the many posts, and this one hits the nail on the head. It said, everybody is saying that we are being given the right to carry, or our rights are being expanded. And it's like, let's all stop right there, because our rights aren't being expanded. Our rights are being returned to us. Yep. So the downtrodden in states such as New Jersey and New York and Hawaii and California, all of which we're going to be talking about over the next year, decade, forever. Yeah, really, it's not like they're going to stop being dinks just because we have this great, opinion. But nothing is being given to us. It's being returned, and wrongs are being righted.
That may be the quote of the day. They're not going to stop being dinks. I love that.
Well, take it and run with it.
Right.
I want to get this up here. Go ahead. Go, Charlie.
I was going to say, I love that they're scrambling to adjust concealed carry laws. This kind of, to me, and I don't want to, whatever, I don't want to make it seem like I'm complaining about everything, but they're scrambling, which means to me that they thought that it wasn't going to go through. Like, they didn't prepare for this. Not that they should prepare for it, or they knew how to prepare for it, but the fact that they thought that they were going to be victorious is a little pompous, I guess.
Yes, well, that's the left.
You need to have a plan, though. Like, why wouldn't you have the envelope ready to open and be like, okay, this is what we do now that our world's been shattered. But oh no, you've got stuttering Phil Murphy in Jersey, and you've got the California legislature and governor in Hawaii. Everybody's stuttering and tripping over themselves. It's glorious. I'm enjoying it. Let me have this for now, right?
Yes. When you get comment in here, Gerald says boycott Hawaii and send them a letter saying why. This kind of brings up a little bit of a. I'm going to take a side trip here. I've said for years I would love to go visit Washington, D.C. I would love to go visit Manhattan. I'd love to go visit Hawaii. There's a lot of places in our country I would like to visit. As a former truck driver, one of the great things about being a truck driver is you get to see the country from the interstate and from the major highways. You don't get to see a lot of the country like a tourist gets to see the country. I want to go be a tourist. I've got to do some of that in some free states since I became an SAF employee, and I enjoy the hell out of it. I'd love to be a tourist in more of the country. I see that happening in the not too distant future when we get a decision out of the court, something to do with reciprocity.
Paul, whenever you're ready to get your fist pump on, the Jersey Shore welcomes you. You have a place to stay, and we can hit it up. Me, you, and Charlie, we can go out on the town, okay? I think it'll be great.
Snooky won't be there, though, will she?
Probably not.
Probably not. He said probably not, which means possibly yes.
Yes.
I think she lives a town over from me. Whatever, we're digressing.
Mercy, mercy, mercy.
You get Pete over at Gun Website says, great opportunity to challenge your concerns and educate with established precedent from so many states that have shall issue for so many years. We rarely get the other side's attention. Let's use it. That's a great point. Yeah. And let's go even farther than that. For quite a while now, Arizona, which is not a small state, has had not just shall issue, they've had constitutional carry for quite a while now. We can show them how Phoenix is doing with constitutional carry, and they're doing quite well. Texas, for the past year and a half, has had constitutional carry. We can show them how good Dallas is doing, how Houston's doing. Those are fairly large cities, and the rest of the country, shall issue places like Miami. There are large metropolitan areas that have shall issue, and it hasn't become a problem.
Go ahead, Charlie.
No, keep going.
I was going to say, and off of the comment here from GunWeb saying we get their attention while we have it. A lot of these states, like New Jersey, for example, there's non-resident permits. So you can apply for your non-resident New Jersey carry permit. And I kind of urge people to do that. Once the whole entire system is figured out, which it's debatable whether or not that system is fully understood. And that's a whole different argument for another day. But, hey, if you're out of state, I welcome you to apply in New Jersey. Let the state of New Jersey and the state of New Jersey's court systems have to deal with an onslaught of applications.
They're going to get a lot of applications from in-state people, and I think that probably has already started happening. I have no proof of that, but I would think starting Friday of last week that local jurisdictions there started getting a lot of applications for concealed carry permits, and accelerating starting today.
Yeah, let's hope so. I know we're all friends with Anthony Colandro, and I love watching him the last few days because he's like, people are asking me what the renewal process is in 2 years, and when's this gonna, like, how long is this gonna happen, and when's this, when am I gonna get my permit? He's like, I have no idea. Like, they just figured this out, and haven't you been paying attention?
Well, whenever I see Anthony's posts, I usually ask him, what's a Bruin, He's like, give me a break.
All right. let me get another one from Pete up here. So there we go.
Oh, I know what I was just thinking of. Hold on a second there, if you may.
Yeah.
So you were just asked. So Pete said something about trying to educate the other people. I watched a video today, and it was either Louder with Crowder or Mark Dice or one of those kinds of guys that was out talking to one of the protesters, and they were protesting the other decision. And this guy just had an orange whistle in his mouth and was blowing the whistle. And he says, "So, how do you think this is going to affect you?" And he's just like, "Dude." And he's like, "Do you want to have a talk about this?" Dude. And so it really seems like there are people on the other side of things that don't want to talk about this. They don't want to hear anything. I did see another video. The NRA put out some little video where they were talking to people, and they asked this woman what an AR was. You saw this, right? So they're like, "What's an AR?" And she's like, "Well, according to my understanding, it's a rifle that you put ammunition in, and you can put the ammunition to make it go faster, or some such nonsense." You're just like, holy moly.
The fully semi-automatic rifles they were talking about. Yes, we should ban the fully semi-automatic rifles. I'm like,
with the shoulder thing that goes up. Yes.
Sure, I'm with you. And, and pepper boxes, whatever, I'm like...
It's the salt and pepper box.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about?
It's the paprika ones you got to worry about. The salt and pepper, they're okay. It's the paprika ones you got to worry about. A lot of folks who are on the fence about guns are looking in earnest for information. We have an opportunity to send folks like that, like Charlie, that showcases many people comfortable with guns.
Thank you.
A block came in between my eyes and my mouth there for a second, but it's part of the reason why we're here, part of the reason why in about an hour I'm going to be doing Polite Society podcast. Generally, what I do, when I very first started doing podcasting, it was the Politics and Guns podcast, and I wanted to broadcast to the middle, to the undecideds. What I quickly found is the people who listened and the people who tuned in are people like Pete who generally are pretty tuned in already. And so fairly quickly I switched gears to how do we make those people more effective. The people who are looking for information, they're gonna either stumble on it on their own, or they're gonna look to people they know and are friends with already, and they're gonna get that information from them. The way we're gonna make a difference is we get the people who we are friends with, and we turn them into pro-rights people, and then they turn their friends into pro-rights people.
I just on Friday, and it's in the same vein. On Friday, I had somebody reaching out to me saying, "Well, how do we reach like the FUDs? How do we get them on board? The people who say they're not going to come after our shotgun." And I said, I honestly I don't think we can reach them. I don't know if we can or we can't reach the FUDs. We could try, but the how, that's a very good question. And a lot of the rod and gun clubs are very myopic in what they do. And I don't know, Charlie, if you've had similar experiences, if you can comment on that up in Massachusetts, because most of the places where you go to shoot where you're at are rod and gun clubs, right?
Yeah, here in Massachusetts, most of the clubs are sportsmen's clubs, and the sportsmen's clubs like legit have this old school attitude. And the town that I live in, I looked into joining one of the clubs right when I moved here, and I said, "Hey, I'm a firearm instructor, and I want to be able to teach some classes here." And they're like, "Whoa, we don't let people teach here. We already have some people that are instructors." And I'm like, "Okay, well, what if I bring some people in as guests?" And like, "Why would you bring someone in as a guest?" And I'm like, "To get them shooting, because they're new people." And they're like, "Yeah, we don't let you bring guests in." And I'm like, "What? Like you don't let guests come in for free? They're going to, one, they're going to see your club. Two, they're going to possibly become gun owners. You need to welcome these people."
And you had somebody that once talked to you about the dangerous handguns. Didn't that happen too?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I was this is a number of years ago. I was having coffee at the local coffee shop, and I hear these guys talking about bird hunting and deer hunting. And I went over. I gave them one of my biz cards. I said, "Hey, you guys are already in the club. I'm a firearm instructor. I'm looking for business, looking for clients and students. And there's a picture of a handgun on my business card. And this guy's like, "Oh my God, we would never shoot handguns. Those are dangerous." I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, we had some friends that, they had a lock safe and they tried shooting into the lock safe and ricochets were going everywhere. I'm like, let me take my card back. I don't want to give you my card. Like, if you have people that are shooting at safes with handguns and then telling me handguns aren't safe because the bullets are ricocheting off the safe, your friends might not be smart enough to be gun owners.
There you go. I want to get this one in real quick. Lee says there's so much out there. Some is info, some are questions, ridiculous, and some realistic. I wish there was a place to go for just the facts in real time, in layman's terms, as concealed carry in New Jersey develops. That reminds me, Charlie, you helped me out with this when I was still driving truck. We did, and if you look on Polite Society Podcast YouTube page and go back a little ways, we did a series called Guns 101 back when the epidemics first broke out. Maybe it's time to dust off and maybe start redoing those. Retool them for maybe people that are just now getting the opportunity to really go and get a concealed carry permit, or maybe just looking into becoming a gun owner for the first time. Now that this decision's come out, this may be a good time to brush off and go get the big named instructors and do a Guns 101 series again.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. I actually had someone last week that contacted me. She wanted to know about getting a gun license, so we went shooting. She took a class. She got a gun license. She bought a gun. We went shooting once. She called me up and she's like, "Listen, I think I need to get back into this. I want to get a couple of lessons in because there was a dead body that ended up in the plaza of where her gym was." And she's like, "I'm a little freaked out about this. So, what can we do?" And I'm like, well, before we start shooting, before we go to the range, double, triple, and quadruple check to make sure your gun's unloaded, and find some sort of a holster. Here's some good things that ladies like to carry, or ladies, whatever, Dean Adams and Hiding Hilda and stuff. These are some good products. Find something that's going to work for you and start carrying around the house.
Yeah, he follows up CCW New Jersey 101. I'll have to see if I haven't spoken with Anthony in quite a while, but I would think he'd probably be high on the list of people he'd want to have very early in that series.
Yeah, Anthony definitely has some information out on his podcast that rolled out yesterday, as did Evan Knappen. So Evan Knappen does have some information on his webpage and also on his podcast. So there is but for me, I want a more tinctured version. I want it distilled because I want to know exactly, because people are already asking me, hey, is this certificate good? Is that certificate good? It's like, let's just wait the couple of weeks to figure out where we are in this process, because I don't want to give people bad information,
Yeah. Well, and that information changes day to day. I want to go, another story I'd posted up. This is off masstransitmag.com. So this is not a political site. This is not a news site, really. It's all about mass transit. But they got a quote from Governor Murphy there in New Jersey. Murphy, a Democrat, has long been a proponent of tough gun laws, signed an executive order directing state departments and agencies to review all statutes, rules, and regulations to see, quote, what steps they can take to prevent gun violence. That includes whether they can designate certain areas as gun-free and regulate how firearms are carried, transported, or conveyed. So
that gun violence he's trying to stop is really just further infringement, right? We know that's the same code as public safety and everything else that's going on in California as well. Phil Murphy's apoplectic over this. He is not happy. Phil Murphy is probably going to make a run for president, so everybody pay attention to this guy. He's a carpetbagger from Massachusetts. Thanks a lot, Charlie, for sending him our way. But mark my words, everything is pointing in that direction that we will see this man on a national level. He was in the Obama administration. He was entrenched as the ambassador to Germany. This guy is a swamp creature, and he is not happy at all about this ruling. And I think with law, he would like to say is like you can't carry within 1,000 feet of a mailbox or 1,000 feet of a light bulb, and that'll leave like the Pine Barrens where you can carry in New Jersey, you know. But they are freaking out about this, and the amount of laws that they're looking to introduce and define sensitive places. One of the things that I read was that he wants to make it where all private property carry is banned unless you have affirmative written permission. So that means you can't even bring your firearm like to the supermarket. So it's just interesting how quickly they're changing the way things are, and now that the shoe's on the other foot, right?
I love using this analogy, and I hate using it. I remember when, early on in my being a gun owner days, we had a lot of money in credit card debt, and I was married, and I remember saying to my first ex-wife, as I affectionately call her, I'd like to buy one of these AR-15s. And she's like, well, how much do they cost? I'm like, $1,000. And she's like, you can pay that off when the credit card's paid off. And then I would pay $800 towards a credit card bill, and she would rack up $900 worth of credit card charges. And I'm like, we're just digging a deeper hole here. Like this is never going to get out of this. And when they come out with these laws and say, hey, listen, you can carry a gun. You can't carry it here. You can't carry it here. You can't carry it here. You can't carry it at church. You can't carry it in malls. You can't carry it near this. You can't carry it near that. You're like, you're making it completely ineffective, saying I have a right to do this, I just can't do it anywhere.
Well, and
I haven't. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
It's not just that. I mentioned this on Saturday's show. Hawaii, I do not think it became law, but they were. Hawaii's effectively shall not issue. They do not give out permits. Period. The few permits they do have, they were debating this spring on making a law where your permit is good for 6 months, and a stupid amount of hours you had to go through every time to get the renewal, like 80 hours of training every 6 months to get your. So it's not just where you can carry, it's the amount of training and the amount of the rigmarole you got to do to get the darn permit is another avenue they're going down.
Right,
and what I understand. I was going to say what I understand. I didn't read the full opinion yet, and I've looked into it a little bit here and there because I've been traveling. And from what I understand, they clearly define in there that if you're not able to make concealed carry or carry for a normal average citizen a viable thing, then you are infringing on the Second Amendment. So from what I understand, this opinion, it's as ironclad of an opinion as we'll have probably in our lifetimes, honestly. And it's written in such a way that even the subject of sensitive places was discussed. And, you can't make the whole island of Manhattan, I think was the example they used, a sensitive place just because.
Absolutely, and we're. I just looked at clock, and we're rapidly accelerating on time here. I want to get a couple more. This one off New York Post, which is a political magazine. Quote from. I can't even. I just pulled this off the quote off here. The worry here is we're going to make this the wild, wild east. This is on the Cats Roundtable host John Katsimatis on WABC 770. The Sullivan Act, which dates back to 1911, requires New Yorkers to show proper cause that a handgun was needed for self-defense in order to obtain a license to carry it in public. And how's that worked out for you, New York? How's your violent crime rate doing for you? And one more, going back to New Jersey, the court has basically invited open season on our gun laws, and so I expect litigation across the board, said New Jersey Acting Attorney General Matt Platkin, a Democrat. We're going to defend our laws tooth and nail because those gun laws saved lives. Mr. Platkin, are you referring to Carol Bound's life? Is that the life you're referring to? Just putting that out there. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Carol Bound, she was a young lady that applied for a pistol purchase permit, not a carry permit, a permit to purchase a firearm. And after the time the state had expired to issue it, and another, I believe it was 30 days went by, she got in touch and with the police department, and they said it's still in process. The next day, her ex broke into her garage where she was and killed her while she was still waiting for that permit to purchase a pistol.
Nope, she was stabbed to death, and then the suspect, I believe he hung himself after this. And Carol Bound, on the 43rd day, I believe it was, so the state or the municipality had 30 days to issue her purchaser's permit, and I believe it was the 43rd day is when she was murdered. And she reached out to the police. She had the piece of paper. She had the restraining order. She had all of that in place, and the blood of her death is on the hands of New Jersey's legislature, judicial, and executive branch. And it still remains on their hands because this order has nothing to do with, like, if the law changes, this order has nothing to do with the mentality of these people. The mentality is still there. They're just being forced to do something that they don't want to do. And we're going to see the games that they like to play. It's going to be interesting.
Well, and let's this decision from the Supreme Court says that basically that now all U.S. carry laws shall issue. It says nothing about purchase laws. And I cannot believe you have to have a purchase law to get something constitutionally guaranteed. Any state that has that law has to go away.
And I believe that'll happen in due time.
That's because you live in free America, Paul.
Yeah, well.
We're here in occupied territory.
Get this one up here real quick. Larry says, we simply need new laws making violating old laws a new crime. That'll work. And Gerald wants to know, what training does Hawaii require for the First Amendment? Obviously, absolutely none. But, maybe they should look into that.
You don't say.
Yeah. That, and we're getting a lot of comments about the Guns 101 and the Carry 101. And I think that is something I'm going to have to seriously look into. That will not happen starting tomorrow. But I think it's something we're going to have to seriously look into, opening that back up. We had 98 Guns 101 videos when we did that series.
And you can still go back and revisit these. We had a ton of people. We had Masada Yu, we had Claude Warner, we had Neil Widener. We had everybody that is somebody that's a firearm instructor that wanted to help new folks that were purchasing firearms during the beginning of the pandemic and the lockdowns and the house arrests. And we wanted to teach everyone, welcome them to the family and say, hey, here's what we have going on, and these are some of our top people, and these are the things that you need to know. Yeah.
It was a blast putting those together. That was back when, just from a video production standpoint, that was when SAF very first bought me this software. I had not yet become an employee of SAF, but they bought me the software because I do the production for, and did back then even, did the production for Gun Rights Policy Conference. And I was still getting to learn how to use the software to its best ability. So some of the video production is a little rough in some of the early ones, but I'm still really proud of what we did.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we are down at the bottom of the hour, and I've got to get turned around. Charlie and I have to be back in 30 minutes to do Polite Society podcast. I do want to recommend you come back and join us in 30 minutes because Patrick Collins is going to be our guest tonight. The gun foodie. You're going to want to tune in for that. He's another one like John Petrolino. It's difficult to get a word in edgewise occasionally.
Thank you, I guess.
So let's before John, I'm gonna, because you're our special guest, because this is not your regular setup here. I want a couple things. First of all, if you would tell us where you write for and anything you've had out recently that you want to bring special attention to, if you would, bud.
Sure. I currently hold bylines at AmmoLand News and Bearing Arms. Those are the two publications I write primarily for, as well as Arm Lifestyle, the Second Press, JM4 Tacticals blog. Recent work, just did a piece on Rick Ector's upcoming event over at AmmoLand, and I also did a piece on Teresa Einiker doing her testimony in last December. We went back to go look at the record on what was recorded, the state record, and 2 minutes, her full testimony completely disappeared, erased from the record. So it was never recorded or whatever happened. So that's over at Bearing Arms. You can find that there. And you can check me out online at thepenpatriot.com or The Pen Patriot on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter. I'm all over the place. And drop me a line and send me some tips.
And for those of you who may be watching, may be curious, up over his shoulder, that is a three-cornered hat. That is not a pair of underwear just hanging there. That whoops!
Right.
That is actually a hat up there. So
it's a hat. Yeah. It's
Charlie, tell everybody what's going on with Riding Shotgun with Charlie. What have you got out? What's coming up, bud?
Well, I want to finish up with the talking about the Pen Patriot. Last Saturday evening, John Petrolino won the media. What was it? The media figure of the year at the San Diego County Gun Owners Gun Prom, and that was a big major award. And obviously we weren't expecting it, but they were listing off all of these people that have made great contributions to the San Diego County Gun Owners. And John Petrolino was one of them, so that was very cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, I've got a show coming out. Speaking of New Jersey, and I've got a show coming out with Evan Knappen, who is one of the I'm going to say the big gun attorney in New Jersey and actually in New Hampshire as well. I met up with him in Boscawen, New Hampshire, and we drove around. I got an hour-long show with Evan Knappen talking about constitutional carry versus permitless carry, permits versus licenses, assault firearms versus assault weapons, and all sorts of really, really great stuff with Evan Knappen. So that's going to be coming out tomorrow on writingshotgunwithcharlie.com, and actually I think it's there now on the website, but I won't put it out publicly on social media until tomorrow morning at 8:30. So please check that out. You can watch it and you can listen to it.
Very cool. I got to say that when you were saying that, the one thing that, as we discussed even a little bit pre-show, one thing that came to mind is when we were at Gun Rights Policy Conference down in Phoenix, I had a friend that won the Blogger of the Year award from the Second Amendment Foundation. And he was a little bit surprised when he got the award, too.
He was a lot of it surprised because he doesn't write or didn't write.
Yeah,
that was something else that blew my mind. But it was great to be next to John when he got this major award, and it was not a leg lamp, so that's good too. It's hard. Right. It's hard to tell the boarding people at the airplane, the TSA, that you got. Oh, it's just a leg, really. It's a lamp. It's a major award. It's for Gile.
All right. Well, hey, folks, we got to shut this down. I've got to turn the software around, and we got to put out Polite Society Podcast in about 25 minutes. So thank you for watching. Come join us the rest of the week when we're going to be continuing to talk about Second Amendment stories that affect you. Thanks for watching.